right. What's your name?
Hello, Max.
Max. Nice to meet you. Max, you're going to have a minute to pitch. Then you're going to get some feedback on your storytelling and your concept. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
What are you building?
All right, my name's Max, and I'm founding Stym AI, which is the world's first smart caffeine app. So what we found is experts see that 93% of people drink caffeine on a weekly basis. And what these people don't realize is, however, is how caffeine affects them in a negative way. Just last year, the National Sleep Foundation conducted a study on 120,000 different sleep profiles, and what they found is 88% of these people who drink caffeine in the afternoon suffer from at least one sleep defect, whether it's anxiety or insomnia. I was one of these people who would come home from work, drink an energy drink, go to the gym, and then when I'm trying to fall asleep, I'm staring at the ceiling, wondering, why can't I fall asleep? So I developed an app that allows you to take a quick picture of whatever caffeinated drink you're drinking, and it not only tells you how much caffeine is in the beverage, but it gives you an estimation of time until you can effectively fall asleep without having to worry about staying up. And we do this by calculating the absorption over time using the half-life of caffeine, as well as your metabolism, which we get through an estimation based on the onboarding survey that the user takes. So that's it.
Just under a minute. Good job.
What are you thinking of doing to make money?
Oh, just charge a yearly or monthly subscription to have access to the app.
And what's your opinion in terms of the theory as to why they will continue retaining rather than sort of saying, I got it after a year.
Or even a month.
It makes sense. Like, how did they basically go from, instead of it being like a Myers-Briggs survey where you get the thing and you kind of know it, to...
You made the behavior change, your sleep is fixed.
I guess the question is, how do you retain them, or why do you think they retain?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the answer to that is that they are drinking drinks on a daily basis, right? Or a weekly basis. And it's going to be at different times. And it's not always going to be like, oh, I know I can't drink after 5 p.m. or I can't drink this after 3 p.m. based on the amount of caffeine in it. And just having that tool to be able to say like, oh, maybe I'll have this energy drink, or maybe I'll just have a quick coffee or something, to have it in your pocket and know exactly when you're going to be able to effectively sleep, I think will save people a lot of stress and worry when hitting the pillow at night.
How do you feel like you expand this product once people have gotten used to that? Or how do you, if you were said you have to make 10 times as much value for the customer from what you have in your product right now, what would you do?
So I think what we're focused on right now is increasing the accuracy of the scans. So right now, like the products, like if you scan a packaged product, our accuracy is very high. But we're trying to figure out how can we scan a beverage and really get that accuracy down so that we can increase the value for the customer, instead of having to say, give a rough estimate and then have them put in like the actual amount that maybe they know.
So I don't like the answer to this question. I'm gonna say why, both from an investor perspective, but also from a founder to founder perspective. From an investor perspective, that does not feel larger. In fact, from an investor perspective, the accuracy of the drink probably doesn't matter. Whether for good or bad, a lot of health and fitness venture bets have pseudoscience to them and don't get more accurate as the company progresses, and they just rely on, we're accurate enough. And, and maybe it's true too that the behavior can be calculated enough from a semi-accurate snapshot of the drink. Founder to founder, I think the real question that even an investor might ask is like, hey, how big is this business? So are you going to have you raised money?
Have not raised money.
Do you plan to raise money?
Possibly. It's not really something that I put too much thought into because I've been so focused on getting the MVP out and getting it into hands of customers.
Well, I assume you're inspired by Cal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that went through my mind when I got the introduction to you. So
I might clarify for the audience.
Yeah, you do it. Do you owe me? Okay. Yeah. Actually, you do it. You tell people what Cal is, because the immediate thoughts that come up for me about the founder, which I'll also make a point about. Tell everyone what Cal is.
Yeah, Cal AI was an app that was released about halfway through last year, I believe, that allows you to take a picture of whatever food you're eating, and it gives you calories and macros, and it logs it over time so you can track like your protein intake for people who are trying to get bigger in the gym and stuff. So,
and he's a 17-year-old founder, right?
Yeah, 17.
He's currently going through a controversy. The reason I immediately became angsty is he's going through a controversy on Twitter. He got rejected from pretty much every Ivy, even though he's making what?
I think it's 30 million.
30 million in annual in AR. But it's interesting business because it's essentially a vision wrapper that's making $40 million.
Correct.
He's doing it. So when you asked that question of like, how would you 10X? I thought, oh, do you start to enter food? Do you start to enter calories? Are you discreetly saying you want to stay zoned in on caffeine? Do you want to stay zoned in on on a wider set of things that you haven't talked about yet? How do you think about Cal in light of what you're building?
Yeah, so the way I think of it is I really am focused on the sleep aspect, right?
Okay.
We track absorption over the entire time, so it's also useful to see like where the caffeine is in terms of effectiveness in your body. Like if you're at the gym and you want to see how far the caffeine is in your bloodstream so that you're getting the maximum energy effect. But I really want to hone in on the sleep capability. So maybe integrating with some sort of sleep metrics. I know that there's a lot of like smartwatches that you can integrate with and possibly get their data to really help people get the most out of their sleep while also getting the most out of caffeine.
So this is where I would really make the pitch sing, is you want to say, look, there's a category here. And this is, by the way, a category a lot of people are going after or have gone after, but in ways that haven't worked, or they're wearable focused or whatever else, of sleep tracking and sleep optimization. And caffeine is actually an entry point that no one's really approached. And we can approach it for the first time because of vision models. And I like the fact that, again, from the perspective of what you can say to an investor, sleep as a category is huge. This is one mechanism that is discrete to start with. So that's a really nice thing, because if a founder just approached sleep with an app that's AI driven, I'd go, okay, like you're going to start making people count, or they've got to have a wearable, and that's hard. You're going, no, we want to start with one type of concern that a lot of people have. And so we're going to start by talking about a caffeine story rather than a sleep story, but it is a sleep story. Again, I think that being the frame of your pitch, if it's what you intend to do, and it sounds like, there's a lot of things you're open to in terms of pathway, but I think especially in the context of if you're talking to investors who I think would be excited about this, whether that winds up being right for you is a different question. But you want to tell hey, either there's a caffeine story that leads to a sleep story, or there's a sleep story, here's where we're starting in caffeine. And that allows someone's imagination and their ability to understand, where this might go over time to be really discrete.
I think the biggest thing you'll have investors asking about is size of potential. And so I think as much as you say, I want to do it, I would feel like investors may view you as a tinkerer in terms of what your intentions are. So I think it's saying, yeah, this is a great thing. You love what you're doing. If you were to go for venture funding and trying to get on that wheel, I think they need to see, okay, this is the beginning, and inflecting into either broader sleep discipline, broader fitness discipline, whatever the broader category is. Because I think what they're going to be concerned about is saying, okay, this either has to be the most compelling thing. Like, for example, there's a guy named Nikita Beer who is known for building consumer apps. His apps don't sell for a
just
ton
talking
of
about
money.
annoying people on tech Twitter. It's just so.
But when you think about the apps that he built, like TBH and Gas,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
They were the most limbic system connected consumer apps of, I want to know if I have social approval, I want to have affirmation. They still didn't get that big. But he built them super light. He got distribution down, and he sold them for, I think it was like single-digit $1 million for each one, like 5, 10, 20, something in that realm. So
he just keeps turning the next one, the next one, the next one.
Yeah, it's like a very good, he hits a lot of good singles.
No, but I like what you're talking about here, because you're saying it's like an investor wants to know, is it a broad, very heavy approach or a lightweight?
Yeah, but the investor wants to know how they make their money back.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's what, literally, by definition,
right.
That's what they're doing.
Well, I guess the instructive thing for a founder like you who has a product like this is, for them in this context, that's either going to be big market, big numbers that we're going to approach this as just a small start, or this is a small start and we have a really clever way to make it really sticky and make it really, to reduce churn, et cetera, but stay in this smaller space. And I think picking one of those two stories is important. One thing that you're mentioning here too, I actually think this is also relevant for your consumers, depending on the approach you decide to take. Because if you want to be a much bigger sleep category company, I think you want to tell that sleep narrative as part of Mike's question of like, how do you prevent churn? You, even before you have all the features in the world, say, hey, by the way, if you don't have a lot of caffeine, start with this, because we're going to move beyond caffeine one day. If you, by the way, fix your caffeine problem, stick with us, because we're going to solve more sleep problems one day. And maybe you start to hint at features, even in your early versions, that are about continuing to track or continuing to say something or do something so that you keep the users who either solve it or aren't as obsessed with it for this longer term approach. Now, then you have to define a longer term approach. Is it, again, you mentioned sleep as the thing. Is it sleep as it relates to vision? So it's always food and picture taking as it relates to sleep. Is it vision and then analysis? It's a co-pilot. And then you tell more of that story of, hey, we plan to always be like the best recommender because we're going to have all this data. But it allows you to tap into something about this that, again, an investor is going to care about from a market perspective, but even a user is going to care about from a, once this solves my caffeine problem. And, it is very discreet. I agree with you in some sense of like, they'll want to solve that problem first. But even a lot of those users might appreciate the longer term vision too. What do you think about, you said it's sleep, but, we've given you feedback and we've talked a little bit more about it. Is it broad sleep and everything related to sleep and integration? Is it pictures and vision model as the core, kind of like Cal's doing? Do you have a sense yet?
That's a good question. I think that's just starting out, and just the phase that I'm in right now, I'm so focused on caffeine because I started this trying to solve a problem for myself, right? And I was so focused around like I drink a lot of caffeine. I want to make sure that I'm like doing it right and making sure I'm not affecting aspects of my life and like the sense of sleep. And now that we're having this conversation, I'm starting to think a lot more about like, wow, maybe I should think a lot more about sleep and how I can expand on that. Right?
Well, not to go founder to founder and brainstorming in this, but like even as you're talking, I go like, there's a founder who's raised lots of money and is a health tech founder who's building something specifically for people who have autoimmune diseases. And the autoimmune community has a lot of challenges that they can solve with tracking because they don't know what's necessarily affecting them, in terms of how their symptoms manifest. It's called MIME, I think. And the whole concept of, hey, we don't know how things we're doing, whether intentionally because we want caffeine to keep us up or unintentionally, we're just in a diet of a kind, might have these unintended consequences. It's an interesting category to approach. And I like that this caffeine thing is the starting point, but I'd encourage you, because like I think the other stuff's going to focus on like calories and getting in shape and other things. But maybe you go for the negative health outcomes. Like those are in a weird way like ambitious products, or like they're trying to solve a visual problem, I think, more than anything else, or a fitness problem, versus you might be trying to solve a more overall health, sleep, wellness problem. It's really interesting.
Cool. Thank you.
Any feedback?
I think I've given the main points.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.